Not your questions, that's what they all say. Is the world full of more animals or human beings relevant with yesterday's dinosaurs? Regarding the dinosaurs, when there were no human beings, where were they? If our planet gets destroyed by man, hey, that's gender specific. What about women? Why was they destroyed by men? I remember Margaret Thatcher, she almost came close to destroying the world. Climate change or asteroid, etc. What will happen if an asteroid comes and destroys this world? Don't worry about disasters, because these days we've got Iron Man, we've got Superman, we've got all these people, so we're quite safe these days. That's why I wonder, where was Superman when the Twin Towers happened? Anyway, there's no such thing as such things, but indeed, sorry, that's better. For the dinosaurs and other beings, sometimes when there's not human beings, that some human beings got born as such big animals. So these animals, they're like vehicles where this stream of consciousness can get a home in. So if there weren't any human beings, the stream of consciousness would get a home in some other type of being. And they say that if this particular world disappears, there's many other worlds as well. And sometimes the people ask, are there such a thing as aliens? And yes, of course there are. There are extraterrestrials. The truth is out there. They're walking among us now. But anyway, I know there's such thing as aliens, because every time I go to Heathrow Airport, there's actually European Union citizens, British citizens, and aliens. I've seen the immigration line for aliens. But anyway, so that's where there's many places we can get reborn into. And when it talks about evolution, yes, evolution concerns the evolution of the vehicles which streams of consciousness can get reborn into. So yes, there's different sort of vehicles which we can have, different animals, different human beings, devas, but actually the stream of consciousness is a parallel stream of evolution, where human beings, it's not just the body, it's the minds as well. They can grow and develop, they can go backwards as well, but generally they grow and develop. And so we have the evolution of the stream of consciousness of the mind, and also parallel to that, the evolution of the physical bodies. And the fascinating thing is that, can like a stream of consciousness take a home in artificial intelligence? And I can't see any reason why not. You can be reborn in your next life as a computer. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, do I jump on? Do you experience seeing an inner light when you go into deep meditation? I've heard that some spiritual gurus do that. What is that light? Yeah, everyone will see that light. We call it nimitta. It's just what happens when the mind, the jitta, can be perceived. Usually when the five senses, seeing, hearing, smell, taste and physical touch, get so suppressed, so calmed down. But then that's what you can see. It's just like when the sun goes down, then you can see the stars at night. That's why I think it was actually in one of those little, those concerts which the Buddhist Fellowship used to do. They said a little joke that my father's teeth are like the stars. They come out at night. Teeth are like the stars, false teeth, Anyway, they got that from the Buddhist Fellowship. I thought you might remember that. But yes, so that when the five senses disappear, then you can see the mind, which usually appears as a beautiful light. And they say everyone will do that anyway, because when you die, you go towards the light, which is the same thing. So it happens when the five senses get calmed down. You're not thinking. You're perfectly aware. A beautiful light can be seen in the mind. That's called nimitta. That's not the end of meditation, that's getting into deep meditation, but you go more than that. And those of you who think, oh, that's too advanced by me, for me I can only see a few little things of peace and quiet, I can hardly watch my breath. Sometimes you'll be surprised. Sometimes in meditating you feel comfortable, you feel calm. Sometimes when you least expect it, you get into deep meditations and you see these beautiful lights in your mind. There's other nimittas, and very many people see them. So it's always really nice and very good. Dear Bhante, to continue with your last night talk, doesn't animals being reborn into the human realm according to the Buddhist teachings? You said it is difficult to be born a human, however we can see how cool these people can be. Do they get to be born as human in the first? How do they get to be born as a human in the first place? Please comment and thank you. It is true that in the time of the Buddha, it did seem to be there wasn't that many human beings around, so it's much more difficult. Nowadays, the population of humans has increased many-fold. So as I usually say, there's more rooms in the hotels of the world. So it's much easier to get a room as a human being in a mother's womb. When I grew up, just travelling on an aircraft was incredibly rare. You had to be very wealthy to get on an aircraft. Now here's a plug for Air Asia. Now everyone can fly, as they say. So now many beings can get reborn as humans now, which does explain why there's some very high-minded humans, but very low-minded, violent humans as well, because they really, I would say, belong in the animal realm. But there's not that many places they can get reborn in as animals, so they come into our realm, to the human realm. If a person is not reincarnated immediately, then he is meanwhile a ghost. How has he or she gone to the ghost realm while waiting to become a human being again? Isn't this the reason why different people take different periods to become human again? They are in the ghost realm. It's like a waiting realm, where you wait for a rebirth. But it's also, if a person gets basically stuck in that intermediate realm, they can live a long time as a ghost. But it's an interesting question. How long can you stay as a ghost in that realm? And the only thing I can do is use anecdotal evidence. Because remember that I was part of the Psychic Research Society in England, and they're famous for their ghosts. So many ghosts over in the UK. And they would investigate them. And it's very rare to find a ghost which was more than a couple of 100 years old. And so, just anecdotal evidence. Ghosts are usually recently departed, maybe 50 years, 100 years, 150 years maybe, but to get a very ancient ghost is very, very rare. So that gives you some information that maybe just after 100, 150 years they realise they have to move on. So there's not that many really, really, really old ghosts. How should we act towards our loved ones from stopping smoking and other bad habits that we know should be harmful to his or her health? What is the effective way of advising them to stop the bad habit for their benefit? Again, sometimes just cajoling them, telling them it's bad for their health is not really good enough. Because it's not just a physical health, it's a mental health. You have to join the two of them together. And so if they're enjoying smoking and they got a lot of satisfaction out of it, sometimes it does need to be substituted for something which is even better. So it's hard to give up an addiction if you've got nothing else. So that's why sometimes teaching them something even better than getting a nicotine fix, like a meditation fix, or other joyful activities in your life, and that is really, really important, because as Shakespeare said, a man does not live by bread alone. You have to have meaning in your life, joy in your life, purpose in your life, which gives you emotional satisfaction. And if you don't have that purpose, that joy in life, then a lot of times that you go to addictions because that's all you have to give you pleasures. So this is one of the reasons why one of the great ways of getting meaning in life is to do service. Service for others. So all the people who work hard, either selling the shirts in the back, or selling the books, the people who organize and look after you here, they actually get a lot of happiness out of service. It gives people meaning. Yeah, you can do your job in Singapore or wherever you're coming from, but just doing your job is not enough. Look after your kids, that gives you a lot of meaning and happiness if you're lucky enough to have good kids. If you have little monsters, it gives you a lot of suffering. But most of them are okay. So little by little you find your meaning in life, and when you have a meaning in life, you don't need to sort of have these harmful addictions. So if it's one of your loved ones smokes, just telling them not to smoke is not good enough. You have to give them an alternative meaning why they shouldn't smoke. My daughter, her late 20s, 20 years of age, she is a 3D artist, graduated from one of the art schools in Los Angeles. She is very passionate on what she's doing. Now she's moved back home, whereby the 3D industry is far from developed compared to the United States. She works very hard and gets very frustrated for not being able to market her production. On the other hand, she has anxiety and overthinking on lots of things. She worries about lots of things, except listen to her what kind of advice is best for her. She is quite knowledgeable, but many times does not know how to deal with her anxiety, etc. You know, one of the great things with meditation in stillness, it also makes you very innovative. And innovation is very important, for success in our modern world. You can't just do things the old way. If it's in art, or if it's in technology or engineering, we have to break new ground. And I've mentioned to you in previous talks that 2015 I was invited to South Korea to give the keynote address at the 2015 World Computer Congress. And many people ask me, what am I doing giving a keynote address at a congress for nerds and IT sort of fanatics? And I said that one of the things I'm doing there is about innovation, seeing things in a new way, which if you're an artist or anywhere in any tradition, any field of employment is so crucial to your success. And what I did, I picked up a bottle of water like this, which was on the table when I was giving my keynote address in front of the whole number of participants. And I'm going to do the same exercise with you now. I want you to please participate. What is it that I'm holding up now? What do you see? Yes, what else do you see? What else do you see? Now, first of all, there's no right answer here. Keep on looking. What else do you see? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? And you keep on going until you've run out of all the labels. Because all those labels is what you've been taught at school, at university. Plastic, bottle, water, cylindrical, whatever else you say. You keep on looking until you run out of labels. And then there's a good chance you may be able to see this in a way which you haven't been taught. A new way, innovative way, insight, seeing things from a totally different angle and perspective. The problem is, because we've been taught, you hold something up and people say it's a bottle of water, and they don't take their investigation any further. They think that's the right answer and they don't go deeper. That's the difference between following your learning and being innovative. Seeing things which other people haven't seen. Not what we've been taught, but seeing it afresh. And if you're good at this, you can hold up a bottle of water and you can keep seeing new things in it. Half an hour, and you're still seeing new things. That means you'll be very good at art as well as R&D, research. See something which no one else has seen. Putting aside the old knowledge and seeing things from a new perspective. So this is actually how the silence, the stillness which you develop in meditation, which basically stops all the old knowledge, allows you to see things afresh. So, if you're doing 3D art, forget all that you learnt in LA. Forget that. Take it further. Take it deeper. Do something which no one else has done. And meditation will help you there. Anxiety doesn't get you anywhere. It just blocks innovation, stops you producing stuff. So, and of course, meditation, mindfulness is one of the great ways of overcoming anxiety. Okay, here we go, more on reincarnation. Subsequent to yesterday, Q&A on reincarnation, I still cannot understand people or any being of whatever karma they had in their previous life made a human today not better than before. The terrorist attack and kill the innocent is not be understood by our common sense. How Buddhism look at this phenomenon? Okay, that many people get reborn as human beings, and many of those people who are terrorists, you ask their mothers and fathers, they were usually pretty good people. They could not predict, but that's how they will turn out. But what happens many times today is that people believe charismatic teachers like myself. And it's very dangerous to have a charismatic teacher and you believe everything they say. A long time ago I told one of my students, don't believe everything I say. And you know they believe me. But this is one of the great things about the Buddha talking about the Kalama Sutta. Don't just believe, check it out, find it out for yourself. But how do we find it out for ourselves? This was actually a subject of a talk I gave last Friday night at our Noramara Temple in Perth, because I wanted to address what happened in Manchester. And there I said that instead of believing even the 5 precepts or any idea of morality from books or from dogma, even that, to check it out for yourself. This is what I do when people ask me tough questions on things like abortion, gay marriage, euthanasia, having a military, do we need one? And all those tough questions, I use my knowledge of what the Buddha taught just as a framework, but deeper than that, you feel in your heart, you're mindful enough, aware of your mind to know what feels virtuous and what doesn't feel virtuous. And that is so important, because if you trusted in that heart, that mind, so I said, there's no way that you can blow up other people. You just cannot do it. But if you believe what you're taught, if you follow a book, or if you just trust in charismatic people, you can do all sorts of stupid things. Which is one of the reasons why I always encourage you, don't believe what I say, believe what's in your own heart, and what's right, what's wrong, what should be done. And trust in this, and that's always much, much better. So one of the problems with extremism, and it's not just in Islam, it's it could be just communist ideology, it could be even vegetarians, it could be extremists, believing sort of what they're taught or some dogma, and never really believing what's in their own hearts, not feeling it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to actually express that just dogmatic belief rather than mindful and kindness. Mindful and kindness will protect the world. Dogma is too dangerous. I think that's where we've got on a wrong path. If you do not feel like discussing this topic, I understand. Okay. I can understand how people like a hawk can be fairly persecuted or treated. Yours claim the law is above anything, that everyone should honour it. But if the judges do not make fair judgment, how can we accept this and still believe in law and justice? How Buddhism look at this matter, its general view is to satisfy our curiosity believing in law and justice. Thank you. It is always the case in many jurisdictions that there is law, but law is not necessarily justice. And this is in one of the stories in ancient Buddhist texts. They tell the story of a monk in the time of the Buddha who was walking on alms round for his morning meal, and as he was just walking, he managed to just walk behind the law courts. They had those known from time immemorial, especially in the democratic traditions of India 2,500 years ago, and there the monk saw the judge receiving money from one of the plaintiffs. Even 2,500 years ago there was corruption in the courts and in governments and in many other sectors of society. It's just the greed will always be there. Political advantage will always be there. And so that's why sometimes the law is important, but it will never be enough. We do need the goodwill of everybody else, and to be able to know what's right, to do what is good, and to be sort of kind. And that sometimes takes a lot of courage, to do what is right even though it may cost your life. I also saw, inspiring in one sense, but sad in another sense, there was a recent event in Oregon in the United States where a crazy guy, he was abusing a Muslim girl on a train, and a couple of Americans came up to him and told, you shouldn't do that, and he stabbed to death the two Americans. But the two Americans are now heroes. They stood up to abuse, even though it cost them their lives. So sometimes we have to do that. This is one of the things I always was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, who once said, I can see 1,000 reasons for giving my life for a cause, a good cause. I can't see one reason for taking the life of another. Kindness, mercy, just love, goodness. And I think when there's a dogma, it's just so easy for people to forget what the religion really teaches. But it's not just Islam as well. You know that there are some monks, please excuse me, in Burma and in Sri Lanka who stir up violence. try to stop them, but sometimes it's difficult. And there's also other places as well which stir up violence. But it should have no place in Buddhism. But every now and again it rears its ugly head. So, the law is not enough. We need other inspiring examples. We need people sometimes who sacrifice themselves. Judges who say, well, I am going to do the right thing, to be kind, even though it's going to cost me my life. I don't know if I told this story, it came through that this is a nice Muslim story. And this was in some part of Indonesia, so many islands, a remote part. There was a woman who was caught stealing a breadfruit from the market. And she was caught red-handed and taken to a trial. And the magistrate said, well, why did you steal that without paying? And she said to the judge, her husband had run off to Jakarta and hadn't come back. She had kids who were hungry. She stole that breadfruit to feed her children. Just like Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. I always remember that when I read that book. It was very powerful. Because how could you, if I had kids, then would you steal to feed them? But anyway, according to the law of that land, the judge or the magistrate said to the stallholder, can't you forgive her? It's up to you. If you want to prosecute, I have no choice. But if you want to forgive her, I can let her go here and now. And the prosecutor, the aggrieved party, the stallholder, said, no, she's a thief. If you let her go, then other people will steal from me. I've got a livelihood too to make. So the judge had no choice. Pronounced this poor woman guilty. And the penalty, they said, was, I think, 10 million rupiah. And that was 10 million rupiah, is that $100? Is that about right? 1,000, that must have been 1 million rupiah then. So about $100. 1 million rupiah. So I fine you 1 million rupiah. And of course, $100, if she can't even afford to feed her kids, where could she find that from? So she hung her head and started to cry. At which point the judge said, I'm not finished yet. I'm also going to fine every person in this room 100,000 rupiah each for being so negligent in your compassion and charity that you've let a poor woman like this having to resort to stealing to feed her family. You are all guilty, including myself, said the judge. And he got his hat off his head and put 100,000 in, passed it around the courtyard. Everyone had to pay the fine of 100,000, and they collected 10 million rupiah. And he took 1 million out to pay the fine and gave the other 9 million rupiah to the poor woman. This should help your kids for a while. I thought that was a wonderful way of actually using the law to create some sense of justice and fairness and compassion. I like that little story, which apparently was a true story. The judge fined everybody. They were also culpable that poor people have to steal. I feel disgusted whenever I saw irresponsible behaviour, for example food wastage in the buffet, free rider in work team, parents mistreated by their children, etc. Am I abnormal? What should I do to make myself feel neutral towards all of these? First of all, the old saying, rather light a candle than complain about darkness. Being disgusted doesn't help the situation at all. Being active does. So don't just feel disgusted, do something about it. Number two, to be able to do something about it, don't just be disgusted. See the beautiful part of things, not just the 2 bad bricks in the wall. See the 998 good bricks in the wall. A lot of people put a lot of care and love in preparing this food. 3 riders in the work team, maybe that later on they can produce their share of what they're doing. The parents mistreated by their children, maybe because those children were the parents of the parents in their previous life. Do you look after your parents? If you don't, your parents will get reborn as your children and they'll take revenge. So I think that's why some children mistreat their parents. They're taking their revenge because you never really looked after your own parents. I know that happens a lot in the West. I'm not quite sure how it is in Singapore. But sometimes people abandon their parents. And then those parents come back as the children, take revenge. Karma working out. But anyway, don't just sit there and just feel disgusted. See what you can do to make a better world. But you can't make it perfect. How does Ajahn Chah react whenever you crack silly jokes? Ajahn Chah passed away a long time ago, but it wasn't because of my silly jokes. Ajahn Chah used to tell silly jokes as well. And sometimes, that's why it is a tradition. If any of you go to Wat Pah Pong today, the abbot is this monk called Ajahn Liam. And I remember Ajahn Chah telling a joke one day, and Ajahn Liam, who's so tough, he could not resist laughing. And he was rolling on the floor, holding his belly, laughing his head off, literally rolling, because of one of Ajahn Chah's jokes. So yeah, Ajahn Chah tells funny stories as well. If you want to know one of them, go and get the first book, Opening the Door of Your Heart, and the story he says about the monk who was missing his girlfriend back in LA and wanted to get something to remind him of her. And you can read it in the book, what Ajahn Chah said to ask for. I think you all know that story, don't you? Yeah. A bottle of, you know what, comes out the backside. Ajahn Chah is very funny, it's a very coarse humour. Is it possible to transfer merits in meditation or good deeds to a family member who's passed away a long time ago? My intention is to help clear bad karma for the person so that he can get to a better place. Yes, of course you can, it's worth a try. And even if it doesn't work, they don't receive it. The very fact that you've had a good intention to help someone who's passed away is a very beautiful good karma to you. So often it can happen. So give it a try. But anyway, you never lose out because you get good karma by thinking of someone who's passed away. Why do I always fall asleep while meditating? It's because I don't come around the back with a stick. If I started doing the Zen type of meditation and hit everybody when they started falling asleep, I am sure you wouldn't fall asleep. But that is not the way to do things. Instead, I notice that why is it that when you are sitting here that you try to meditate and you fall asleep, but when you go to bed tonight you can't fall asleep? So the answer is obvious. When you're in this room, don't try to meditate, try to fall asleep and you'll be awake throughout the whole period. And when you go to bed tonight, don't try and go to sleep. Try and watch your breath and meditate. And then you fall fast asleep. There's something important there, because when you try to meditate, you fail. You don't try. You're here in this moment. Just be in this moment. You're sleeping, just be sleeping. But don't try and get rid of it. Don't try and do something different. And same when you go to sleep at night, just lay down and relax. How on earth can you go to sleep when you're so tense trying to go to sleep? So if you do it properly, you'll be up here and you'll feel so peaceful you don't go to sleep. Whatever you want to, you go to bed and fall fast asleep. What a wonderful skill that is. Is it normal to feel like your soul is leaving your body while meditating? Thank you, Ajahn Brahm. Yeah, if it wants to leave. It's not a soul there anyway, your stream of consciousness. If it wants to leave, why not? You're welcome to come to my room and check out how I'm meditating during the day. If you leave your body, go and check out on other people as well, find out what Angie's up to. There was this guy, he was, when I used to visit the prisons, he was a Yugoslavian man. He said he could leave his body, and the interesting story was, he learned that skill when he was about 5 or 6 years of age. He got sick in Yugoslavia many years ago, and the doctors were doing an operation on him. He left his body during the operation. Looking down on his body, he was dying. They were trying to keep him alive. And he said he knew what was wrong. And he knew the doctors were looking in the wrong place. Even only a 5 or 6 year old. He said he knew that. And he just willed one of the doctors. Couldn't speak out of the body, just willed. Don't look over there, look over here. And the doctor did that. And he said, I've got the problem. So they kept him alive. He survived the operation. But he said from that day on, he could always leave his body whenever he wanted to. And so he said he did not mind being in prison. He could leave whenever he wanted to. If he wanted to go and see a concert, he could go in without paying. Want to see a football match? He could get the best seats. No one knew he was there. And if he wanted to go watch a movie, easy, they couldn't catch him. He could leave his body whenever he wanted. That's pretty cool, isn't it? What he really should have done, he should have got a job as a spy. Imagine a spy. You can go to North Korea. You get all the launch codes for their missiles and just leave the body and have a look. Now I can check you and come back again. What a great profession that would be. So any of you, if you find out you can leave your body, develop it. And I can find you a really good job with the National Security Agency in the United States. Interested? Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just make it up as I go along. Okay, here we go. Dear Ajahn Brahm, I'm still grieving over the loss of my mother 1 year ago. Every day I feel guilt over not taking better care of her when she was alive, e.g. to stop her chemo, take her travelling. I know I can't change the past, but something can change how I feel. How can I cope? It's not that hard to change how you feel. First of all, if you have guilt, it's a waste of time to know that other people, including myself, say you've done nothing wrong. You don't need to feel guilty. But the truth of the matter is you do feel guilty. So don't just sit there feeling guilty and feeling guilty about being guilty because you're a Buddhist. I shouldn't feel guilty. At least be honest and be mindful that yes, you feel guilty. But then don't just complain, just do something about it. So one thing to do about it is maybe that do some work in areas where you could help other people who are dying, take better care, be taken better care of. Just give some contributions, donations to old people's home. Or if your mother died of cancer, give some contributions to cancer research, or even just respite care so that people can feel comfortable looking after sick people without getting burnt out. So do something positive and practical. And you say, that's my penance for my guilt towards my mother. So use the guilt for something positive, to making a better contribution to this world. And what usually happens if you're doing something beautiful and compassionate, rather than just getting stuck in emotional negativity, you'll find just looking after others, making a contribution, that mental energy, the good karma, dilutes the bad karma. You find that the negativity, and guilt is a part of negativity, tends to get lessened and lessened, gets diluted, because you're doing wonderful good things. So if you do feel guilty, then do something about it. Do some charity, something good. And then you'll find the guilt will slowly evaporate. If everyone has to go through rebirth, why only few can recall their past lives? How many of you have been born? You've all been born, exactly. How many of you can remember your birth? You can't remember it. You're just taking it on trust from your mother. Maybe your mother was lying. Just because you can't remember that you were born, I think you pretty much trust that yes, you were born. You came out of your mother's womb. You were not found under a bush. A stork did not deliver you. You were... But we don't remember it. Just because we don't remember it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So that's a common answer to a common question. Why can only very few can recall their past lives? Because only very few can actually recall their birth. And a lot of times it seems to be about 6 or 7 years that you can have spontaneous recall of your previous life. In other words, these are people who, when they're born and they start speaking after 2 or 3 years, they do have memories. But even those memories, they disappear after 6 or 7 years. It's like the new brain takes over from the old mind. A new life tends to dominate. There's one of our committee members is Sri Lankan, and she said when one of her sons was born, he refused to eat Sri Lankan food. He wanted to eat Chinese food. And he never wanted to use a spoon. He insisted on using chopsticks. It's obvious, there was a Chinese person before, got reborn into the Sri Lankan family. But after 6 or 7 years, he just became a normal Sri Lankan boy and preferred his mother's cooking, and then often would eat with the fingers, like the parents did. But for a few years, had to have chopsticks. So there is many people recall their past lives, but then they forget afterwards. That's what happens with people. Does this mean there are other places to go after death? Of course there's many other places to go, in animal realms or heaven realms. But many people, if you do things like hypnotic regression, many people can recall their previous lives, if not through meditation. If ghosts really exist, they do not have bad intentions. Why are people, including monks, so afraid of them? We're always afraid of what we don't know. And those Thai monks, they were afraid of that woman, not a ghost, it was a woman who came to life again, simply because that before they were monks, they watched too many ghost movies. Just like Chinese people, you watch so many ghost movies and they always eat you up or they possess you and make you do stupid things. I know in Thai movies they say it's like usually a head, lots of blood and entrails coming out. And Remember when I was in Indonesia with Handaka, we'd go from airport to airport while we were waiting for the next connection. There was the TV and they had a show on Handu ghosts. And the most ridiculous thing, they had this house, it's supposed to be a haunted house, and the person who could stay longest in this haunted house would get the prize. And these ghosts were just so stupid. You know, because apparently many people get buried in a sack, not in a coffin, they had this ghost jumping up and down. They're so stupid. And I think the Christian ghost was a girl with her head on one side and blood all over her. Just an actress, obviously an actress made up. So why are people scared of that? It's just simply because of our conditioning. I often told Ajahn, I said, are you afraid of ghosts? I said, the first couple of years I wouldn't be afraid at all. I said, why not? Because whatever they said I couldn't understand Thai, I wouldn't know what they're talking about. I'd just be confused, not afraid. But it's only because of lack of knowledge. We're afraid of the unknown. And I tell this because this is one fact from the Psychic Research Society in UK. Because they've been researching ghosts. When I was at Cambridge, they had the 100th anniversary, so that must be 140 years old. The Psychic Research Society in London. And these are professors who just do this research, and they record it all in files. And there, never in 140 years has there been any case of a ghost hurting or harming a person. They don't hurt you. And they were wondering, how come? And one of my best friends, he said he was in haunted houses and eggs were flying past your ear. I don't know why it's eggs, but see, ghosts like eggs. Flying them around the house, or plates crashing. They never hit a person. And you think just by the laws of chance, eventually somebody will hit somebody just by mistakes. But those ghosts have got such great aim. They never actually, miss by hitting you. They're always just on target by just doing about an inch past your ear, just to make you frightened. They can't harm you or hurt you. Why? No one really knows. But that is just the anecdotal evidence. So you don't need to be afraid of ghosts. They can't harm you. They just make you scared. This is my first time meditating. Why do I keep nodding off? And woken up by a blue light. That must be the police. Where are you actually practicing? I don't know why the blue light is, but it can't be mimeters if it just comes after you've nodded off. But also I must say that a lot of people have what we call sleep deficit, which means you haven't caught up on your sleep. Your lifestyle is such, looking after your kids, looking after a husband, a wife, parents, and doing your job at the same time, running Buddhist fellowships or Bodhinyana, Singapore, or the Brahm Center. You work really hard, so your brain is tired. Even I work hard as well. And yesterday afternoon, after my lunch, I went to bed, and I couldn't believe it. I just disappeared for 3 hours. That's really rare I do anything like that. I realized I felt so wonderful afterwards. I had sleep deficit. I'm catching up too. I do a huge amount of work and traveling as well. So you have sleep deficit. So I should have said this on the first day. While you are here in the afternoon, you have these really lovely rooms you paid a lot of money for. Use them. Go and take a rest. Go and take a nap. Feel much better. So at the very least, if you don't learn meditation, learn some kindness to your body. Relax. You feel so much better. You have good meditations afterwards as well. Dear Ajahn, I've got a mindful mind and a kindful heart. When I do meditation, I usually fall asleep. What can I do? Is it good enough? Read your pillow, like the lady over there. Very wise. It must be pretty hard on there. It's much better in your own bed. If I have to mislead information in my line of duty as an enforcement officer, what level of seriousness of breaching the precept of false speech? Misleading information. I don't know really what you mean there. But if you have an ethical choice, feel the heart. If you know what's right, what's wrong, that you can trust. The example I give, when I was a teenager growing up, Vietnam War, and I remember following that war, being very concerned about why it was being fought in Vietnam. And at the same time, I remember an occasion called the My Lai Massacre, where US troops were ordered to go into a village in Vietnam and to kill every man, woman and child. That was their order. To destroy the whole village. And I remember the officer in charge was a fellow called Lieutenant Calley, and a journalist found out about that atrocity. It became headlines. Lieutenant Calley was court-martialed, put in military jail, and then pardoned by the president later on. But after that tragedy, somebody did a documentary follow-up of all the soldiers who participated in that war crime, just to see what happens to soldiers who follow orders when they know it's a very, very bad thing. And so they managed to find a large number of veterans of that terrible affair, most of whom had very serious addictions to drugs and alcohol, who had many psychological and psychiatric problems, could never have a relationship, and felt very sort of anxious, guilty. So they were basically messes. The karma from that terrible deed had caught up with them. But there was always exceptions. And one of those exceptions was an African American soldier who was only one of 2 or 3 people who refused the order. And they wanted to find out how he could be so courageous to refuse an order, knowing, and it happened, that he would be court-martialed himself and sent to military prison for 3 years, which was very, very tough. And they asked him, interviewed him, said, how could you do that? Were you a religious person? He said, I've got no religion. I just came from the ghettos and poor parts of poor city in the United States. I joined the army to get out of poverty. Well, how did you do that? Did you know what's going to happen to you? I knew the consequences. But he said, I just couldn't do it. My heart said, no, I can't do it. I can't go and just shoot women and children and even men. I didn't know if they were enemies or not. It could be just farmers. And he refused. And he was the only person who was happy with himself, content, living a good life. He was a person who did, I think a lot of time because he was uneducated, unsophisticated, didn't have a religion. At least not one of those religions which tell you what to do, what to believe. So he could actually feel his own heart. Say, no, I'm not doing this, I can't. Those are the people who are actually shining lights, willing to stand their ground when things are wrong. So, if a law enforcement officer, sometimes it's the case where you let people go. You feel it's the right thing to do. There was a case of this guy who was caught speeding. The policeman, he saw the policeman in his rear view mirror. He started trying to outrun the policeman. The policeman caught up with him and said, "Sir, give me one good reason why you were exceeding the speed limit." And he said, "Sergeant, when I saw your lights in the rear view mirror, I got very afraid. My wife recently ran away with a police officer. I was afraid you were going to bring her back." "Okay," said the police officer, "that's a good excuse, you can go." That's a joke. What was that other story? About enforcement officers. They're actually getting wise these days. Instead of fining people, putting them in jail, that's called negative reinforcement. So in some jurisdictions they're using positive reinforcement. So this motorcycle cop stopped a car. The driver wound down his window and he said, "Sir, I've not come to tell you anything you've done wrong. I've just been looking at you. You've been wearing your seatbelt. And it's our policy now to reward good drivers instead of punishing bad drivers. So with great pleasure, I give you a $5,000 check as a reward for being a good driver." And of course the man smiled. He said, "You're right, positive reinforcement." And the police officer said, "Just because of my report, I have to ask this question. What will you do with the $5,000? And the driver said, "Oh, with $5,000, I'm going to take some driving lessons and apply for my license." And his wife in the passenger seat, "Don't listen to him, he's always a smart ass when he's drunk." And the guy in the back seat said, "I knew we'd be caught in this stolen car." That's another joke. Funny story. Okay. In the moment of death, what should I focus on to have a good rebirth? Oh, how many times have I told you to live in the present moment? You're not dead yet. So wait till it happens. Don't live in the present moment. Shall I seek a heavenly rebirth or back as a human in order to continue my journey in the path of enlightenment? Become a dog. So you don't have to go to work again. But no, be a dog. Don't be a dog in Vietnam. You might get eaten. I shouldn't say that. They don't eat dogs in Vietnam anymore. Ah, a cat. Why not be a cat? You like to be a cat? Really? Because cats in Australia, they have to be desexed. Do you want that? So anyway, do your research first of all, and then find out what you want to be. So anyway, just the thing to do is just remember all your good deeds, be kind, be peaceful, and of course if you know how to meditate, that's basically preparing how to die. Letting go of the five senses, which is what happens when you die, they stop automatically. If I am cheated of a significant amount of money by another person, should I chase it back? Sometimes if you've got enough left, then just let it go. Just like it was over a year ago, a burglar came into Bodhinyana Monastery. Middle of the day in the afternoon when the monks were meditating. And they came into our workshop and they stole a generator, 2 chainsaws, an expensive drill and lots of other tools. And when the monks found out, they were very upset. I mean, that's really bad karma, stealing from holy monks. And I told them, hang on monks, number one, they can steal our goods, but I'll never allow them to steal our happiness. They can cheat you out of money, but are they cheating you out of your peace, happiness and contentment, even health? Don't let anyone do that. Too often people get cheating, lose money, and it makes them sick with anxiety and worry. Yeah, you can lose your money, but don't lose your peace. And anyway, too bad bricks in the wall. See the good side of it. And the good side of it was actually so true. It was all insured, and with the insurance payout, we bought a new generator at lesser price, and much better chainsaws, also cheaper. So we replaced everything which was stolen and also came out with a profit. It was such a good deal. I'm trying to find out the identity of that burglar to invite him back next year. So see the positive side of this. If this only reason to pursue that money is actually sometimes for the sake of other people. Maybe your family needs that money. Or maybe that person who stole needs to be taught a lesson that, that's not the correct thing to do, it's bad karma. So if you can actually find the person, if you can do something about it, fine. But if you can't, you just let it go, for goodness sake. Well, okay, next question. So many questions. What makes everyone in the room Buddhist? Because I say so. They say if you look like a duck and you walk like a duck and you quack like a duck, then you're a duck. So if you chant like a Buddhist, if you sit like a Buddhist, if you ask questions like a Buddhist, if you fall asleep during meditation like a Buddhist, then you're a Buddhist. I often say, it may not occur in Singapore, but in Australia, people say, well, isn't Buddhism a philosophy, not a religion? And my answer is always, I said this on radio when I was asked by a presenter in Australia, is Buddhism a religion or is it a philosophy or a way of life? And my answer was, Buddhism is a religion for tax purposes. But it is a religion. So you can call yourself a Buddhist, and why not? We have censuses, census, and the results of the 2016 census in Australia should be coming out soon, any day now. It was over almost a year ago now. I still haven't published all the results, especially religious affiliations. And I was telling people, look, if you come to the temple and you practice Buddhism, then you're a Buddhist. So call yourself a Buddhist. And please, out of compassion for me, because if the number of Buddhists in Australia don't increase since the last census, then I will lose my productivity bonus. But it is, especially if you're a religion in government, say look at how many Buddhists there are in Australia. And they give you the appropriate respect according to basically how big you are, how many people you represent. So for many of the people who organise Buddhist stuff, it's really important. For me, letting go is easier said than done. Nothing is easier said than done. It's easier done than said. Don't believe in that, just do it. Don't think about it. Don't say it. Just do it. It's so easy. But saying it, having all the argument, I don't want to do this is not work, how do I do this? Should I ask more questions on how it should be done? Shut up and just do it. So other than meditating more, what else can I do to master the art of actually letting go wholeheartedly? Easy, we have letting go boxes at the end of the retreat. I hope, Damianji. Letting go boxes. You know what letting go boxes are? Donation. We have forgiveness ceremonies where you let go of the pain of the past. You let go of that. You let go of your ego, so you don't have to be the best meditator. Just like that story I love saying about the kid in my class when I was a school teacher. I was teaching a class, I was class teacher, 30 children, and one of my children came bottom of the class. One has to come bottom of the class, even if they all had the intellectual ability of Albert Einstein. That if they all were geniuses, one would have to be lesser genius than the other 29. Someone has to come bottom. But you know what happens is people think bottom, is a stigma, it's a failure, they take it as a personal slight, as if they are deformed and not really good enough. And that's what happened to the kid when I gave out the report card. He found he was bottom of the class. You could see in his face he was depressed. You could read his mind. He was thinking that all his friends would call him dummy, stupid, idiot, because he came bottom of the class. And what would his parents say? What would you say if your child came bottom of the class at school? You would scold your kid. You would take away all his privileges. You wouldn't let him play computer games until he did better. You'd give him special tutoring because he's bottom of the class. And I knew that's what that kid was going to face. And so he was just so depressed. And I am a kind, compassionate monk. I will not just sit there and watch one of my students get so depressed. So I went up to where he was sitting and I taught him some Buddhism, how to overcome depression. This is what I taught him, how to overcome depression if you're a Buddhist. They all knew I was a Buddhist. And I taught him the concept of the Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva is someone who sacrifices their own enlightenment. They put it off until everyone else has become enlightened first. Who sacrifice their well-being and happiness for others. And I said to this little kid, you are like the Bodhisattva. You deliberately, intentionally chose to come bottom of the class so that none of your friends would suffer what you're going to get from your mother and father this evening. Everyone else in the class are just selfish, thinking of themselves, but you think of others. Consciously doing really bad in your exams so other people wouldn't need to suffer. I'm going to go to the principal after this class and recommend you for the Bodhisattva of the Year award. Becoming bottom. Being selfless. Everyone else is so proud. They just want to do better than their friends. You are a real Buddhist. You're compassionate, not conceited. I really praise you. And I still remember the look at this kid's face. I was standing up. He was sitting on his seat looking up at me. With his depression, which you could read all over his face, was just replaced by, my teacher is crazy. Going out of his depression, he was laughing at the end. Well, I did actually tell him, as I tell all people who come bottom of the class, you're only allowed to get the Bodhisattva prize once. Let somebody else take that position next year. But if you can't meditate, that must mean, if you're always falling asleep when you're meditating, that must mean you're a Bodhisattva. You're deliberately not getting into jhanas. You're deliberately not getting enlightened so other people can. You are the very best. So those people who fall asleep during meditation, you're not considered like other people trying to attain something. You're just relaxing and enjoying, letting go. So those people who fall asleep, the ones who fall asleep the most, you're the ones who get the Bodhisattva prize on this retreat. You're only allowed to get the Bodhisattva prize once during your time as a Buddhist. Do I have to be a vegetarian to be a Buddhist? Oh, the Buddha wasn't a vegetarian. And anyway, sometimes I teach my monks, you are what you eat. You've heard that before, haven't you? You are what you eat. So if you eat vegetables, you become a vegetable. I'm going to apologise. Resist making that joke. How to reduce sensual desires such as grief for certain type of food, lust, etc. When you haven't got anything else to create happiness, then you get your lust for food or your lust for sex. It was a strange thing. I see this in myself when I first ordained. That, when you had to give up girls, I was a heterosexual, active, had girlfriends. When you became a monk and you had to give all that up, then food sort of became my sexual pleasure. And I was really into food, even though it was disgusting food. It's amazing, disgusting food you can still start to like. Anything will do. And it was only when your meditation started to kick in that was much more delightful than food or sex. So that means the lust just disappeared. So the only really way to reduce sensory desires is to calm them down so much they disappear, and you realise just how wonderful it is to actually to have peace of your senses. They're not excited anymore. A lot of that sensory desire is excitement, and after a while, when the excitement disappears, it's so peaceful. And even, I know this is so controversial, but it was a study which was done, giving people, I don't know how they did this, brain scans while they were having sex. And they discovered, to their surprise, that the part of your brain which was excited was the same part which responds, which is pain. The actual sexual act lit up the same parts of the brain when you experience pain. And that reminded me of something which the Buddha said to Ananda in the suttas. He said that sensory pleasure is a perversion of your perception. You're not actually seeing what's really happening. You're changing it according to what you have been taught and brainwashed as pleasure. And that reminded me of something similar. I had my first half a pint of British beer when I was only 40. Young men pushing boundaries, breaking the law. But you had to do that to be grown up, to be tough. But the thing was, when I first tasted British beer, it was disgusting. The taste was awful. But the peer pressure was so great to enjoy it. The whole country loved it. It's what you do when you go out socialising, to drink a pint of beer. Have a beer, mate. And I only took about 6 months and I started to enjoy the taste. It was only because I had to enjoy it, because everyone else was enjoying it, that I changed my perception and it became enjoyable. And how much else in life is not really enjoyable, but you've been brainwashed to think and perceive it's enjoyable by our cultures. You have to fit in and agree with what other people are doing. So if other people say it's enjoyable, eventually you actually experience it as enjoyable. And this is actually something which the Buddha said. What enlightened people say is suffering, the world says is enjoyable. What the world says is enjoyable, the enlightened one says is suffering. Get it way around. Why do people I opened I told Angie and I told my monks that this is what I will do, but not because I'm trying to be a really good monk. It's just I can't see the point of looking out the window at the ocean. But I did open the windows just to get a bit of light in my room today, and I saw all these people just lying out in the sun watching me, just on getting sunburn, getting skin cancer. What are they doing that for? Obviously messing around in the water. Is that fun? What's fun about just messing around in the water? Trouble with me, I question so much that some of the things which people say, no, it's fun, come in and say, why? Why just lying? It's much better to lie in a bed in my room. Number one, it was quieter, people didn't disturb you, don't get skin cancer there. And number two, I had the aircon, get the temperature just right, no mosquitoes. So why do you go out lying, even walking? I do my walking in my room. That's my exercise. Instead of walking, why do you want to walk on the beach? What's so great about the sea? It's just what you've been taught. And you believed it. Same with sex. It's supposed to be good. And now it actually feels good. Very much. But actually it's the pain centres which actually light up. Fascinating stuff. Totally rebellious, radical, but interesting. Dear Ajahn, how does a monk spend a day? Does a monk nap? Yeah, we have monk naps. Really depends what you have to do. So I don't control my day. I do what I'm taught, what I'm told. Sometimes you have to work a long time. One of your disciples dies. You can't say, no, I'm busy today. You just go and help. Somebody asks a question, asked me a question on marriage. I've never been married. Just asked a question about somebody cheats you out of money. I've never had any money to be cheated out of. So how do I know what it feels like? But anyway, you help as much as you possibly can. So how you spend a day, you actually don't spend a day, you just spend a moment. Every moment. Dear Ajahn Brahm, through meditation there may come a point of disappointment when it feels like the grapes are grown too high up for an attempt to reach. Will you share some of the steps for attaining jhana? How could we feel it's much more achievable? Okay. I've got to the stage now, because I've been teaching this for so many years, that I accept I cannot tell which one of you will get jhanas and which one won't. And the reason is because this guy came to one of my retreats in Perth a couple of years ago. And when he arrived, I was there welcoming people. And this guy was an Australian, big guy, scraggly hair and tattoos all over him. So many tattoos that I stereotyped him, because not far from Jhana Grove, about 6 kilometres up the road, is a prison. And I told this guy, I think you've got the wrong place, the prison's up the road. Big mistake. He said, no, I'm booked on this retreat, I'm registered. And I checked his name, he was. So he was a guy, I didn't even think he was registered to go on that retreat. I thought he got in the wrong place to be out in prison with the other tattooed people. But he blew my mind. During one of the interviews, he started talking about his experiences, and wow, he got jhanas. Real jhanas, no doubt about it, big ones, well done. And I just couldn't pick him as someone who's going to get jhanas. Couldn't do it. And if that guy can get a jhana, then you can, if you can't get a jhana, go and get some tattoos. Just down the road in Patong, you get lots of tattoos. That may be the reason why you haven't got jhanas, not enough no, but you can't tell. So it can be done. Many people do it. Never think it's too high. It looks too high, but then there's a bunch of grapes. They bend down to come to you. You never reach them, but they come to you. How karma works across time and across rebirth was not explained by the Buddha. Can chaos theory explain it? For instance, when a butterfly flaps its wings, it causes a tornado. That's why we have to exterminate all the butterflies. They're causing chaos with climate change. It's all butterflies' fault. Mr. Trump is right, it's not carbon emissions, it's too much butterflies. Well, that's only a joke, okay, don't quote me. Can we explain chaos theory to explain karma? No, not really. Because karma is cause and effect. We have such a lot of good karma, you also have such a lot of bad karma as well. You do one really kind act, you're really kind to Ajahn. You say, Ajahn, it's about time you went to bed, it's getting late. And because of your kindness, that gets repaid 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. But one very bad act. Ajahn, one more photo, please. And you have to pay for that 1,000 times as well. So, in your many lives, you made such a mountain of bad karma. It's inexhaustible. But you've also made a huge mountain of good karma as well. That is also inexhaustible. So why is it that you've got such a huge store of both good karma and bad karma? Why is it that some people experience the fruit of bad karma, while others experience the fruit of good karma? That always fascinated me. It's very much the case, if you get into a negative state of mind, you draw bad karma. Your mind is negative, it resonates and picks up more bad karma. When you're in the SHIT, you get more SHIT. This is why the power of positive mind states. It draws more positivity to you. If you feel happy, you create happiness around you and you get more happiness back. You give kindness to others, you get a huge amount of kindness back. You actually generate the connection with the huge store of good karma. That's actually how it works. So please, never get negative. Even if you're feeling sick or grumpy, be happy to be sick. Be happy to be sad. Be happy to have grief. Showed you really appreciated the person you were grieving for. Be happy. Open the door of your heart to it, accept it. And then you find the grief, the sadness, weakens and weakens and weakens. How many monks do you know? Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of monks. So, there are those that don't know them personally, but they're there. The monks of the past, the monks of the future, and many of those monks I know sitting in front of me. The time is coming. You will have to be a monk soon. And the same with the nuns as well. Monks and nuns do a really good job. Number one, because we don't have children, that we do our bit for overpopulation of the planet. That is my contribution to the environment. Dear Ajahn Brahm, when I meditated once, I had a vision of a being in a black space. Ooh. Where there were many spirits that looked like me. Ooh. Some of them were nice. Others were destructive. Ooh. And for all the others, there were also doors with light beyond them. Many locked. What does this mean? Means you were drinking too much coffee. Or something like that. Watching too many movies. But if you do get vision of a black space, the black space is just how we interpret emptiness, nothing there. But usually in that black space, there's usually beautiful light. And if you can just focus, zoom in on something beautiful. Don't zoom in on the negative. Don't zoom in on the two bad bricks. Zoom in on a nice brick. And then that nice light would actually grow and grow and grow and expand. So this is actually where we learn how to develop perception of the nice, the beautiful, in life and in meditation. Yeah, you have a partner, they've got all their faults, but they've got some beautiful parts in them as well. You got your kid who drives you crazy, but there's some beautiful things in them. So that's what you focus on. When I was in prisons visiting, I saw even people who've done terrible, terrible crimes had a lot of beauty and a lot of goodness. And that's what I focused on. I never found any human being who's been all bad. Even Adolf Hitler was a vegetarian. Not all bad. Dear Ajahn Brahm, at times life is a vicious cycle, going through the same routines day in and day out. How can we break through this? Through breaking patterns. It does look like yet another vicious cycle. Just like Ajahn Brahm and his same stories and same jokes every retreat. You've heard many of them before. And it reminds me of the last, I can't finish all the questions. This will be the last little story. I don't know if I told this. No, I don't think I have in Singapore. You heard this. Last time I was in Thailand, the Albert Einstein story. Because when Albert Einstein became famous, he was invited on a tour of the United States. Now this was many years ago, so even though they knew his name, he was a famous scientist, they didn't all know what he looked like. So when he arrived in the United States, they arranged a car and a driver for him. And they take him from university to university, the same car, the same driver, the same lecture. And at every university, they really appreciated his deep breakthroughs in physics. So he was really famous. But he was going to yet another university on the East Coast, giving exactly the same talk. And in the car, the driver said, I've heard that same talk so many times, I think I could give it myself. Just like some of my monks. So I've heard you say the same story so many times, I think I could do that. And they do. But this particular time, Albert thought, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. So when he got to the next university, the driver pretended to be Albert Einstein, and Albert pretended to be his driver. And so they took the driver, pretended to be Albert Einstein, put him in the front of the lecture theatre, while Albert sat in the back. And no one knew. And the driver got to the microphone and gave the talk which he'd heard so many times. He really pulled it off. And he got a standing ovation. They thought it was Albert Einstein. Really admired, well done. But one of the professors was a little bit suspicious. And so he decided to find out if that really was the real Albert Einstein giving the lecture that day. So he stood up and asked a question, a very deep question, which only Einstein himself will be able to answer. And the driver listened to that question and said to this smart aleck professor, "That, sir, is such a fundamental, easy, basic question. Even my driver in the back could answer that." Driver asked. So apparently that's a nice little story. It's very apt. You may have heard the story before, but this is the real Ajahn Brahm giving the talk this evening. Good night, everybody, and have a nice sleep. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, questions?